Huh. Hello, internet. You guys can call me Aja. I wanted to kind of throw my hat in the ring on the online trauma dumping Olympics because I've been seeing a lot of people doing it. A lot of people specifically have been talking about growing up undiagnosed ADHD and autistic and their experiences with that. So I figured I would talk about mine because, well, I mean, honestly, I haven't really seen anybody like talk that had a similar experience to me, really, like, or at least in like how low-key trifling it was just the whole time. So I figured, hey, maybe somebody can relate, or maybe if anybody sees this, they'll know they're not the only person and they're not being ridiculous. Literally, you can't forget complex trauma. Like, I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder from the way I was treated by peers, teachers, adults, sometimes even my own family. And I'm not saying that to slander my family or throw them under the bus. They're old. Like, I live with my grandma. I've lived with my grandma my whole life. She's great, but she's 70-something. She's really old, and old people are hard-headed, and they're not typically educated on things when it comes to, like, the modern consensus on topics. So, yeah. Anyways, so I was born in December 1999, and in my, like, early developmental years, I used to do, like, a lot of quote-unquote strange things. Like, that was supposed to be air quotes, but anyways, like, I guess, like, kind of rocking back and forth and stuff. And, like, you know, like, my aunt, when she would come home from work, I would just crawl from one side of her to the other and, like, just kind of, like, just do random stuff like that. And, like, I also had a speech delay. I don't remember when I started talking. I mean, obviously it was early childhood, because I literally don't remember ever not being able to talk. But, yeah, so obviously red flags, bushels of red flags. Like, I remember my aunt has told me that even other people would be like, that's a sign of autism, right? But they were in denial. So, and honestly, I'm not saying that even if I had got diagnosed, my experience would have been better. I mean, I moved to Texas when I was 7, so I probably was shit fucked from the moment I left California. So, it just, oh boy. Anyways, let me get to the point. So, obviously, like, some of my earliest memories from, like, school and kindergarten are, like, of people wanting me to go away. Like, literally, some of my earliest school memories are literally being, like, rejected by other kids for unknown reasons. So that was always fun. And teachers and stuff weren't much help. If anything, they just ignored it or made it worse. But I think that was really before I would even, like, try to, like, say anything, it was early childhood. So I'm sure I had good experiences too. And I mean, like, the kids, like, after I moved to Texas, I would hang out with kids in the neighborhood, but, like, I was kind of overzealous. So they were like, oh, you're kind of annoying, you're always knocking on our doors. And it's like, to be fair, that is annoying, but I was like 7 or 8. So, I mean, telling me that was no benefit at 7 or 8 years old. It was like, honestly, like, I feel like it would have been better if, like, they just went to, like, my grandma or one of my aunts, like, and just been like, hey, what's up, handle it with the adults. I mean, but, well, anyways, so, yeah, I got called annoying a lot by everybody. I remember, okay, I don't remember, somebody else told me this, my grandma, but when I was in, like, first grade and stuff, I didn't even used to want to, like, write, and I used to daydream a lot to the point, like, the teacher would notice I was just zoned out for, like, 30, 45 minutes, literally just somewhere else. And, I also apparently didn't like to write with a pencil, and I would know the answer, but I'd be like, can I just tell you the answer? So, funnily enough, my handwriting was also really bad, too, and I used to hold a pencil. In a weird way, like, I don't know if I can still do it, really, but, like this, right? Yeah, so, anyways, this is called dysgraphia. It's a learning disability. It is treatable. I didn't find that out until I was 22. So all those years I spent kind of being picked on by teachers and other students for having awful handwriting, that didn't have to happen. I mean, handwriting isn't something that bothers me. Yeah, it's bad sometimes, but it is what it is. Like, sorry, my brain developed a certain way, and I have kind of weird fine motor skills. Like, it just is what it is. But, anyways. So, yeah, there were a lot of signs that maybe something was kind of odd, but since they didn't want me to be labeled, everyone kind of, like, swept it under the rug. And I'm not holding against them. They did the best with what they had. It was just the result of the early 2000s. I feel like I probably would have suffered in my life regardless of when I'd been born. I don't want to complain too much or be too much of a person that's like, oh, my birth was a mistake. Nobody wants to fucking hear that, so I'm gonna move on. Anyways, like, and then after I moved to Texas in the 3rd grade, and I just, like, suffered for it, really. Like, I mean, I had friends in the neighborhood, like, kids I would play with, but like I said, like, their parents thought I was kind of overzealous, so after a while, we just kind of stopped playing, and I kind of stopped going outside. Like, I remember I was kind of friendly with this girl next door. We used to play and stuff up until, like, middle school, when, like, I guess social politics came into play, and then suddenly it was like, oh, she's like, don't wave to me in public, and I was like, oh, okay. That was around middle school time, and honestly, middle school, I feel like going to public school through my middle school years really, like, cemented the post-traumatic stress disorder. Because, I mean, elementary school wasn't great, but, like, in early elementary school, there's still, like, a chance things change. So, obviously, middle school is that time where you're thinking, oh, things might start to change for the positive. Spoiler, they didn't. So, I mean, I remember, like, there's just this one core memory I have. It's, like, literally 7th grade, where, like, everything just kind of, like, basically, I feel like I got kicked out of, like, society in 7th grade in a way that's not really an effective way to phrase that, but I don't know how else to really say it. Like, all my friends just kind of, like, stopped talking to me. Like, I would try to talk to them, and they would just ignore me. Like, I'm, like, talking to them to their face, and I'm getting no response. And it's, like, so... And then, like, some of the other people that were still kind of my friends at the time, they were like, oh, are you sad about that? But, like, I guess over the years, I kind of learned to not tell people about my emotions, because oftentimes it would be used against me or used to humiliate me in some way. So I was just like, oh, no, I don't care. I did care very much. Like, it's kind of deranged when people you thought were your friends literally just stop speaking to you one day and you never get an explanation. I don't want to cry in this video, but I might. That's severely traumatizing. And then, like, I'm sorry, me telling my story, it's gonna jump around a lot because of the way my brain works, and I don't have a script. I don't think anyone's probably gonna see this, but if you guys do, that's kind of why it's kind of scattered. It's just hard for me to organize my thoughts, especially when it's something that's kind of, like, emotional. So, bear with me if you do click on this video. I remember in 6th grade, actually, like, they would always have these dumb, like, assemblies, and they always be like, oh, you know, if you're struggling, kind of being picked on, not fitting in, go talk to the school counselor. So I did that, and believe me, that was my mistake, because I didn't even really get help. She only listened to me for, like, 10 minutes. I was, like, 10 or 11, like, I didn't have the words or the knowledge to articulate specifically what I was struggling with. Like, I just knew that, like, I wasn't wanted by my classmates, so I was kind of treated badly. But she basically was like, man, I'm lightheaded because I haven't eaten. There's kids that are scared to walk down the hall because they're afraid they might get the shit beat out of them. Basically, I don't have time for your trivial problems. So, as you can imagine, never asked anyone for help again. Because I never got it. Sorry for the pause. I just kind of wanted to try to calm down a little bit. Anyways, so after that, like, and then the next year, all my friends just dumped me. Like, I became really mean after that. Like, I mean, I feel like the meanness was already starting to kind of settle in because, like, everywhere you go, people just pick on you or kind of, like, treat you badly, just unprovoked for no reason. Like, that makes you mean. You become very mean and very hostile. And even to this day, I have to stop myself from being mean. Because since I, like, started, like, I guess getting diagnosed and stuff and getting medicated and really just realizing the extent of the trauma. Because for many years, I didn't even think. I was just kind of like, oh, this stuff probably happens to everybody. Like, really, 7th grade year was really actually so bad for me. Because it's just, like, it was just one thing after another. Like, I couldn't even just, like, be kind of just, like, left alone. So, like, once again, if anyone sees this, sorry for, like, the pauses. Like, it's really difficult to, like, remember. It really is. But I want to process this. And I don't want to always trauma dump on my friends and family. So, I mean, I figured I would just trauma dump on YouTube. So, like, after that, like, since everyone kind of turned hostile, like, I guess I was one of those kids that kind of, like, played too much. So, I remember I was playing with my jacket, and I, like, jokingly, like, I tapped one of my friends with it. Not to, like, hurt them, but, like, just kind of absentmindedly. So, yeah, that kind of backfired. Don't do that. And then this other girl pinched me kind of hard. So hard that it left, like, a purple bruise on my arm. So the dumbass PE teacher was like, oh, do you want to press charges? I was like 10 or 11. 7th grade, yeah. I started school early, so I was like 11. So, of course, I'm like, sure. And fortunately, my grandma was like, I'm not going to fucking file charges over that. That's ridiculous. And I'm glad she didn't, because that would have been horrible for that child. Like, I don't hold any of this, like, against the kids. They were kids. It's just nearly every adult that I reached out to failed, like, every step of the way, like, and I suffered for it. So, yeah, and it's like, so after that, obviously, the kid wasn't thrilled about that, and I mean, that's, like, real, like, duh, right? So, obviously, she wasn't happy about that, so I kind of got picked on after that all the time. And it's like, I was 11. Why would you even give an 11-year-old the option for that? That should have never even came up or been suggested. Because it's like, pinching somebody is not a felony offense, honestly. Like, you call the cops on somebody for pinching you, they're gonna laugh in your fucking face. Like, oh boy, I almost just went on a whole other tangent, but I'll suppress that. And it's like, okay, so once again, the dumbass school system sets me up for failure. So after that, in 7th grade, I actually didn't have, like, any friends, and because of that, like, that stuff makes you mean as hell, and it makes you weird. Like, there's no way somebody experiences that and develops a normal personality, because I certainly didn't. After that, I was mean, because who wouldn't be? And then every time I would try to, like, I remember there was this one teacher, Miss Walks. She was nice. So I used to try to talk to her, and she's always like, Natalie. Not the real name reveal. Okay, yeah, you guys can call me Natalie or Aja. I don't know why I'm so scared of showing my face on the internet, because nobody, like, cares, but anyways. So she's always like, oh my god, Natalie, you're so fatalistic. Everything's so negative. I had nothing but, like, a lifetime of negative experiences up to that point. Like, so, mind you, this was, I want to say at the time, I was like 11 and 12, 7th grade. Like, what 11 and 12-year-old has the vocabulary of an adult to understand what's bothering them and to process those emotions with people? And, like, it's just like every time I would reach out for support, I would never get it. So it's just kind of like, it's frustrating to me even as an adult. Because, like, I didn't have to have complex PTSD. Like, I didn't have to have a lifetime of low self-esteem. But because every time I reached out for support or help from teachers or anything, I never got it. So, and then after that, shortly after that, I mean, I had some people I still talk to, but because I literally had autism, I was obsessed with Grand Theft Auto in 7th grade. Like, I didn't have any, like, any social life or anything. So what else is there to do but sit and play Grand Theft Auto on your iPod Touch? Like, so I was kind of, like, obsessed with it because, I mean, I was, like, 11, and, well, I think I was 12 at that time. I was 12. I was a kid. But anyways, since I talked about it too much, everyone's like, oh my god, shut up, Natalie, nobody even likes you. All you do is talk about Grand Theft Auto. And it's like, okay, well, sorry for liking something. And then after that, I literally never talked about what I liked again. All I did was complain about stuff. Because when I did like something, obviously it made people not want to be around me. So instead I was like, well, since I'm getting shit for liking things, I'm going to become very negative. And everything's just going to be negative. And it was. For like years. Like, I didn't outgrow that until I got medicated for ADHD at the age of 21. So basically I lost out on my entire formative years due to the negligence of other people. And I feel like that's what's particularly frustrating about it. Like, you know, obviously unfortunate things happen, but at least when you have like emotional support coming from somewhere, like, you at least come out with some self-esteem, some ability to form relationships or bonds with people. Not me, because I didn't have any of that. So everybody's just kind of like, oh, Natalie, don't do this, do that. And it's like, I didn't even have the tools until 3 years ago. I'm 24 now. And I feel like at 24, I feel like I'm going through the, like, stage of, like, psychological development that most people went through when they were, like, 12. But because I was, like, so just, like, brutalized for those years emotionally by everybody. And it's not like it was necessarily on purpose. Once again, I don't hold any of this against the students. They were kids, so I'm not going to still be mad at them for something they did when they were kids, but I'm more so just upset about how, like, I didn't have support from anybody for years. And now as an adult, I'm stuck dealing with all this baggage and all these emotions and all this grief. I don't want to cry, but, like, the only reason, trigger warning, because this is going to get dark. So, if talking about, you know, certain, like, S word, if that, like, isn't something you want to hear, please just skip this part. But, honestly, the only reason I survived to adulthood is because, like, in elementary school, I developed this thing called maladaptive daydreaming. So because I was always just bored and had no outlet, I was always by myself almost. I just started daydreaming, and I would just daydream about random shit. I would daydream about being a celebrity. Really just, like, how else was I supposed to process anything? Like, I had to do it all on my own in my head with, like, imaginary friends that I made up because I had nothing else. Like, and when I wasn't at school, I would daydream for like 6+ hours a day. Like, 16+ hours a day. Basically, whenever I was awake, I was like just listening to music or watching some random shit on YouTube on my iPod or daydreaming. And I remember, like, I want to say this was like the summer before 9th grade or something. It was like around the time I was 12 or 13. My grandma, she asked me, she's like, Natalie, you don't have one friend you can hang out with? Not one? I was like, no. And it's like, I don't even, once again, she's old, so old people typically don't know shit about shit, but I just don't even know why she asked me that question. Even now as an adult. But yeah, like, anyways, like, I had no outlet, nobody to talk to outside of my family or the like imaginary daydream characters in my head. And anyways, so like eventually I got to high school, and I mean, high school things weren't so bad. Like, I mean, 8th grade I was just like a menace. I didn't have like any friends. I was just mean, like really like mean, like vicious, because it's like when the first 2 years of middle school, literally like everyone goes out of their way to make your life as hard as possible or as like unenjoyable as possible. Like it's just impossible to be anything other than mean or cruel. Like, honestly, like if I didn't get diagnosed, I would probably still be mean or dead. I'm just kind of trauma dumping now, but high school, nobody really bothered me in high school, but I didn't really, still couldn't make connections with people. Like, I remember 9th grade, one of my friends, she was like, because I finally got some people to talk to, she's like, oh, Natalie, you push people away. And I was like, I didn't understand. I don't, like, it's like, I know she was trying to help. Like I said, I don't hold anything against anyone. Okay, like, this was a failure of the adults in my life. But, and it's like, you know, people try to help when they tell you stuff like that, but it just ends up being really frustrating, because it's like, you know, if someone tells you push people away, the next question obviously is, how am I doing that? And it's like, they're not therapists, they can't answer that for you. But like, I pondered that question for like years, and I remember in like junior year, one of my friends at the time asked me, well, he said to me, he's like, you know, Natalie, I know everything about stuff around you. I don't know anything about you as a person. And it's like, I'd never been clocked so badly in my life, honestly. Like, the fact that I got clocked that hard, and I didn't even have an inkling, a conscious suspicion that I might have a disability until I was 19, but we'll get there. And I remember I tried to come up with something, and I couldn't come up with anything to tell him about myself, because I had no self. I was nobody. I was nobody up until the age of 21. So, I don't even, anyways, and then after that, I got to college, and then obviously I was like, my first semester I did okay, I dropped some classes. My second semester, my first year, I said I dropped like everything except like 2 classes, and the 2 classes I didn't drop, like I barely got like a D or a C in them. So I was on like academic probation after my first year, and I had to like talk with advisors and stuff. So then the beginning of my second year, the first semester, things went okay. Like, they didn't go okay. It went off the rails. I was not in any capacity to be at any school. Like, I wasn't functioning. So I don't even remember, like, I barely passed those classes with like D's. So I had no financial aid for the spring semester, but I was going to take classes anyway, because I didn't know what else to do. Like, people tell you after high school you need to go to college. You need to get a degree. If you don't get a degree, you might as well, like, D word, you know? So, I mean, I still, like, I failed everything that semester, and I got suspended from the school. And that was in 2019. But, I also saw a therapist because they had, like, free therapy. And I remember she's like, have you ever talked to maybe getting medication for this depression? Spoiler. It wasn't just depression. But anyways, and I was like, no. So I went to the psychiatrist, and I'm like describing my symptoms to her. Like, you know, I would get like super hyper fixated on stuff and all that. Like, it was just super embarrassing and all that. Like, so she's like, I don't know that sounds like ADHD. And I mean, that was the first time in my life I ever had an inkling I even had a disorder like that. So obviously she was right on the money, because for up until last year, I didn't know that I also had autism. I thought it was just ADHD. And like the medication and stuff, that like, honestly, it saved my life, because before I got my ADHD diagnosis, my aunt asked me what I was going to do if they're like, you don't have that. And I distinctly remember I was like, trigger warning, obviously, because this is dark. But I was like, I'm going to kill myself immediately. And I was so serious. I had no quality of life. So yeah, I was going to punch my fucking ticket. But fortunately, I got a diagnosis. And obviously, since I'm making this trauma dump, I lived. I don't even know what the point of this was. I don't know if I'll upload it. Maybe I will. Maybe I won't. If I do upload it, it's not like anyone will even see it. Maybe, I think I'll make a script.